If I could tell you exactly what you had to do to hit your revenue targets for this year, would you do it? Well, let's find out in this episode. Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, where I, Selena Knight, share strategies, interview retail revolutionaries, and delve into the minds of e-commerce experts to help you grow a profitable, independent retail or e-commerce business. If you're stuck in a rut, or if you feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've overachieved all of the things that you've set out to and are wondering what to do next, or how do I even make this better? I know that you're going to love today's episode. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. It is good to be home after spending those few weeks in the gorgeous Canada. Now, we had so much fun looking at different kinds of stores, doing a bit of shopping, eating out, but mostly skiing at Whistler. And you may have seen in my newsletters that we sent out, I was talking about some of the perks and the pitfalls of being a retailer in a small town. Now, while I was over in Whistler, I managed to do something to my back, and I have had this problem ongoing for quite a few years, and I've always been trying to get to the source of why does this happen over and over again. And I've been to physios and chiros and specialists and all the things, but you know your own body, and I feel like this is not a mechanical issue. So 2 days before we came home, I managed to do this thing to my back, which actually meant I couldn't even walk. I have been in so much agony. I haven't been able to stand up straight. The only comfortable position is lying down. Sitting on the sofa is alternating between a heat pack and an ice pack, trying to find something that relieves the pain. Now, it's terrible when you're in this situation because you can't think straight, you can't do anything, and I'm an action taker. I like to be doing something all the time. So you can't even sit on the lounge and watch TV because there is no comfortable position to be in. But in amongst all of this, and I went to the physio today and just purely by chance happened to see a women's health physio. She was just filling in for somebody else, but we kind of got down to it, and she feels like she knows what the problem is, and it's something that we can fix, and I'm off to see her again once the pain dies down. And she strapped up my back so I can actually be sitting here recording this podcast today. It's the first time in quite a while that I haven't been in so much pain. I've literally been in tears. Now, why do I mention this? Because one, I am so totally grateful that I have the money to be able to afford this. Like, I can't even imagine how people must go through life in this kind of pain. I mean, we are literally talking pain where I could not walk. And people will be going through that kind of pain if they don't have the money to go to specialists, to go to physios, to go to chiros, to get blood tests, to do all the things. And this is one of the key reasons why I am so passionate about you guys building businesses that are scalable and profitable. Because if you aren't making money, if your business is draining money from your savings or from your family account, or you're paying to be in business, guys, that's not a business. That's a really expensive hobby. Having money isn't a bad thing. What it does is it gives you options, and I've talked about this on the podcast before. It gives you options and it gives you space and time to think. And that's exactly what it has done for me. Having money has meant we've got really great health cover, which means every time I go to the chiro or physio, it costs me like $12 or $15. It's fantastic. But I also have the money to be able to afford that gap fee as well, to be able to afford the blood tests, the x-rays, all the things that I've been going through. And having being forced into this situation over the last week or so, and coming back and having to record the new batch of podcasts, I thought, okay, today is a money topic. So what do I want to talk about? And this whole situation has, as I said, made me very appreciative of the fact that Our family has money. And not only that, I have a business that allows me the flexibility to go to the physio at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, to take a week off work after I've just had holidays, and my team can still be generating money for us and still be bringing in clients and customers. That is a true business. And so when I was sitting down looking at what I wanted to talk about this week, it was clear to me that I needed to talk to you about revenue and why so many people don't hit their revenue targets. I mean, why do some retail and e-commerce stores seem to be making money month in, month out, whilst others are just constantly struggling to make any money at all? How do those big retailers that are crushing it do it? Is it because they have a bigger marketing budget? Or is it because they got more followers on social media? Well, think about it. If it was as simple as just having more money to market your business or getting more followers, every store with cash in the bank or a decent social following would be raking in the cash. But that just isn't true, is it? I mean, if you've got 10,000 followers on Instagram, are you raking in the cash? Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But if you're not hitting your revenue targets, in today's episode, I want to go over why that isn't happening. Now, a few years ago, I don't know if you know the brand, but a brand called Shoes of Prey went bust. Now, Shoes of Prey were everywhere at the height of their business because they were leading this retail and e-commerce charge of personalization. So for years we talked about personalization and how people want the thing that they want. They want bespoke, they want custom, and they're prepared to pay for it. And that's exactly what Shoes of Prey did. They allowed you to custom make your own pair of shoes. Now, a couple of years ago, I remember interviewing one of the co-founders, Michael Fox, and coincidentally, we were at the online retailer conference, that is. But anyway, a retail conference here in Sydney. And I was interviewing him, and this same day, the news broke that their business was going pear-shaped. And that puts you in a very difficult predicament, right? Because as someone who is in the media, which is what a podcast is, as somebody who's in the media, you want to be telling the real story. You want to be giving the listeners what they want to hear. And it would have done an injustice to the people who are tuning in to gloss over the fact. And I remember sitting down with my podcast co-host and mapping out some questions going, is this too sensitive? Like, are we pushing the wrong buttons? Because it's a very fine line, isn't it? Now, while Michael navigated that whole conversation really, really well and talked to the strengths of the business, in the background, the retail industry was just shaking their heads wondering what the freaking heck had happened. Here was this darling brand. I mean, this brand had been on pretty much every single stage talking about personalization and changing the face of retail and giving the customers what they want. Their brand was like an e-com angel that had lost its wings and it was hurtling towards earth. And eventually, the whole business collapsed. Now, did Shoes of Prey have a good marketing budget? Well, heck yeah. They were able to raise over $25 million in venture capital from Nordstrom and some other venture capital funds. And in 2017, 2018, probably 2018, when it started going downhill fast, they got a further multi-million-dollar cash injection from another venture capital fund. So they had the money. And remember what I just said, having the money isn't the answer. Having money for a great marketing budget isn't going to make you hit your revenue targets. If it was as easy as that, brands like Shoes of Prey wouldn't have gone bust. Now, did Shoes of Prey have great brand awareness? Did they have a healthy social following? Well, yeah, like I mentioned, they were trotted out at pretty much every single industry event. They appeared in, I would say, every single high-flying business publication. They were in Business Insider, they were in Forbes, they were in Fast Money, Smart Company, all of the things. And they had millions of fans. But the simple fact is, if you are not making money in business, then sooner or later, you are going to have to close up shop. You know, if you've got money coming from outside, your investors want a return on investment. You can't continue to cost money forever. Now, I doubt you're at that stage, but maybe in your business you are making money, but you're just not hitting those numbers that you want to be hitting. So let's talk more about how you can change that and why it might be happening. When I go into a business and do consulting, it is all about mapping out a path to scale. And if you take nothing away from this episode, take away this. Growing is not scaling. Making more money is not scaling. Okay? Scaling is building a business that has systems and processes and doesn't rely on you doing all the work. Scaling is building a profitable business that works like a well-oiled machine and doesn't need you to be there 24/7, okay? So when I go into a business, it's to help them do that in whatever way, shape, or form we unearth once we start analyzing how the business works. So the first few sessions that I spend with a brand is all about analyzing where their money is going or what is working and what isn't. And when it comes to making more money, because for the most part, that is what people hire me to help them to do, what I've discovered is there are two halves to the process. There's a strategic half, and that's the how-tos, the what to do. And then there's the CEO mindset stuff, and that's the why. Why aren't you doing the things you know you have to do to be hitting those revenue goals, to be hitting that turnover target? So today I want to run you through the reasons that you're likely not hitting that turnover that you want to be hitting. And the first step to scaling your business and hitting your revenue targets is simply understanding that knowing isn't implementing. I could sit here and teach you on this podcast every single proven strategy that I know works for businesses. But if you don't go and implement it, then you're never going to get results. It's kind of like buying a course and watching the videos and downloading all the worksheets and then complaining that the system doesn't work. That is all on you. The implementation of the strategies is on you and your team if you have a team. You are the leader of this business. So it is up to you to make sure that things get done. So here we go. Here is the first reason why you're not hitting your revenue targets. It's pretty simple. You haven't set any targets or stretch targets. Now, this is something that we do inside of Scale Your Store and with my one-on-one clients is when we map out a 90-day plan, we have goals or targets and then stretch goals or stretch targets. This is the simplest way to hit a revenue goal. I mean, if you are not doing this one simple thing can have you earning more money by the end of the week, by the end of the quarter, by the end of the year, however you want to work it. So most businesses don't actually have these targets or these goals in place. And the ones that do quite often just pull numbers out of the air. They might say, I want a turnover of $1 million, or this year I want to be up 30%. Well, that's great. But where did that number come from? And do you actually have the capability to fulfill that number? Do you have enough inventory? Do you have enough traffic? Do you have a decent conversion rate? And here's the thing, when you set that target in place, it starts you thinking, it gets you realizing this is what I have to do to hit those numbers. And too many times people don't put this in place because they're scared of that. They're scared of thinking big. They're scared of having to meet the targets. If you go and put a number that is 3 times what you're currently doing and you don't hit that, then you're going to feel like a failure. But what if you do hit that? What if the simple act of having these numbers written down and conveyed to you and your team does the exact opposite. It actually spurs people on to sell more. It actually makes you do the follow-up that you need to do to get the sale. And more often than not, that one simple thing, having a target in place, makes people more money. So easy, yet so many people don't do it. Okay, so once you have your targets in place, the next reason you might not be hitting your revenue target is because you haven't broken that target down. So breaking it down into how much traffic do you need? How many orders do you need to fulfill based on your average order value? Based on your conversion rate, how much traffic do you need to get to your store or to your website to make those numbers? And breaking it down into a daily number of sales or a daily number of orders. Again, this is really simple stuff. But 99% of people who are not hitting their revenue targets don't do it. Mostly because they're scared. But here's the thing, when you actually can look at that, if you say that you want a $200,000 month and your average order value is $150, that means you have to do 1,333 orders in the month. So let's divide that by 30 days. That means you've got to do 44 orders a day. Now you have a plan. Now you have something to work towards. If you're not hitting 44 orders a day, you have to change up what you're doing. Maybe you need to send more emails. Maybe you need to do paid advertising. Maybe you need to go and post on social media. Maybe you need to get in your Facebook group and do a sale. Whatever that looks like. When you have that target, then you can break it down and make a plan. Which leads me to the third reason you're probably not hitting your revenue targets. You don't want to do the thing that needs to be done. Now, I'm putting my hand up here. There are so many things that I don't like doing in my business. And more often than not, you know the real reason you're not getting results. And it's not the economy, it's not COVID, it's not that you're not putting the effort in. It's that you really don't want to focus on the thing that needs to be done. So like I said, if you've got that revenue target and you've got to hit 44 orders a day, and today you're at 40 orders, what are you going to do to get the extra 4? Maybe you might need to send an email, but you really hate sending emails. So it doesn't get done. You don't hit your 44 orders, which means you don't hit your revenue target overall. Well, I'm afraid to say you've got to suck it up, princess, because you have 2 options. You either need to delegate this job to someone who knows what they're doing and will get it done in the right time frame and at the level of the results that you want. Now, that's going to cost you time and it's going to cost you money because you can't just abdicate all your responsibility. You need to be very clear in the results that you want, in the KPI that you've set, and the deadline that you need it to be done by. But if you can't afford to do that, you're going to have to do it yourself. You need to eat the frog. You need to suck it up. You need to get it done so that you can have the cash flow pretty soon to be paying other people to do this stuff for you. The faster you suck it up and make more money, the faster you are not going to have to do this yourself. Now, let me give you an example of a gorgeous client of mine who has kind of been tasked with this lately. She has realized that she knows what needs to be done. Every couple of weeks we get on a call, and every couple of weeks she tells me that she hasn't done the hard stuff. She hasn't had those hard conversations, even though she knows that they are important if she wants to grow her business. And what she's realized is she needs a door bitch. She needs someone who does the hard stuff for her. She wants someone to run interference between her and her team. She wants to be the visionary, to have the ideas, but to get somebody else to do the implementation, to do the managing. Now that is a mindset shift that just makes my heart sing, because once you can understand it, then you know the next step that you need to take. In her case, it is going out and finding someone who works as an operations manager for her business. Simple, done. Makes life easier. You can go back to doing the things that you enjoy in your business. But of course, you have to have the money to pay for that person. So at some point in your business, you're going to have to suck it up and do the hard stuff. Do the stuff you don't want to do. You got to do the thing that needs to be done, whether you like it or not. And all I can say to that is the quicker you do it, the quicker you can make the money to never have to do it again. The client I was just telling you about, that level of control of your business where you can start to identify who you need and what needs to be done, what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are as a CEO, the quicker you get to that point, and this doesn't have to be a monetary thing, this is a mindset thing. The quicker you get to that point, that is, we call it the tipping point. And for some people, it takes a couple of weeks, some people it takes a couple of months, sometimes it takes a couple of years. But when that shift happens, that is when businesses just boom. That is when they skyrocket. That's when they start making so much more money because the CEO, the founder of the business, realizes it's not all on them. And guys, that is so liberating. That is the best feeling to have when everything doesn't weigh you down. Now, that leads me to reason number 4 why you're not hitting your revenue targets, and that is that you aren't in control of your business. You are making all your decisions based on money, time, but mostly fear, rather than what is the best decision for me to scale my business and hit my revenue targets. Now, I know that this can be a difficult decision. I've been there. I've been to the point where I spent my last $100. In fact, it wasn't even $100. It was $80. And I put the last $20 on my credit card to start working with a business coach. But it was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. And sometimes you're going to make the right decisions, and sometimes they're not going to be necessarily the right decision at the right time. But if you find yourself having to justify investing, say, $30 in an app that is going to increase your average order value on your website, or $50 on an app that is going to automate tasks that takes you hours to do. I know one of the big things that people who use Canva, they won't pay for Canva Pro. Instead, they keep replicating their images to have all the different shapes and styles for different social media posts. I mean, pay the $20. You're worth, if it takes you 20 minutes, it's paid for itself. If you are finding yourself having to justify that in your own head, then you're making those decisions based on fear and money. You don't value the money. You don't value your time. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't think about, a $1,000 investment or a $5,000 investment. Sure, you should always look at those kinds of things. But if we're talking $10 to download a template or a checklist or to attend a training session or a workshop, if you even have to think twice about that, you're making these decisions from a very small mindset. And that is one of the reasons we don't use the word small business here inside of our company, because we don't believe in having a small mindset. Now, this is not a one and done thing. I'm constantly challenging myself to think bigger, to look at ways that we can grow our business. How can we hit bigger revenue targets? But you have to be in control of your business. You can't be making decisions based on fear. And if you're making decisions about how much money you've got in the bank, whether you can do things or can't do things, this sounds very flippant, but it's not. The simple answer is to make more money. And if we circle all the way back to point number 1, is if you have that target in place, you will be surprised at how much more money you actually make. And you have a much higher chance of actually hitting your revenue target if you've got a target there, if you've got a plan in place, if you're not making these decisions all based on fear. So, like I said, there are so many strategies, gazillion strategies on how you can make more money. But when it comes to hitting your revenue targets, there really is that two halves of the whole. There is the how to do it, and there's the why to do it. Now, you probably already know the how. You already know the things you have to do. And in fact, I just told you the 2 big things you have to do. Go and set out your targets and then break it all down. Know how many sales you have to make and put a plan in place to drive the traffic and to drive the sales. If you are actually measuring this, if you are keeping tabs on it every single day and not waiting till the end of the month or, the end of the quarter to see why you're not making any money, then you will see results. But then there's the why. Why are you not doing these things? And that's probably because you don't want to do the thing that needs to be done and you're not in control of your business. But now you have this eye-opener. Now you have this overall, or should I say overarching strategy on how to hit your revenue targets. And none of this is hard. It is just you putting that CEO hat on and making these decisions to make more money. Because once you do that, once you commit to it, then the pieces of the puzzle start to fall into place. Now, before I finish up, I just wanted to say, if you know that you need a cash flow boost to be able to afford some of the things because you are currently making those decisions out of fear or money or time, you're ready to set some revenue targets in place and put some processes and strategies to help you meet those targets. Remember, I have my exclusive training on how to get rid of that old stock that is cluttering your storeroom or your warehouse and give you a cash flow boost. In this training, it goes for around about 30 minutes. You get the exclusive training and an action plan. I'm going to show you why that stock is sitting there in the first place. I'm going to show you the formula to work out when it needs to go. And then I'm going to give you the exact strategies you can use to get it gone fast. And you can get it gone and be well on your way to hitting those new revenue targets you're about to put in place. You can grab that over at selinaknight.com/inventory-training. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Please leave me a review. If you've loved it, tell me what you like, what you'd like to hear more of, because the more you spread the word, the more retail and e-commerce business we can help to scale. And remember to hit me up on the socials at The Selena Knight and tell me if you actually go ahead and implement any or all of what you've learned in today's episode. I'll see you right back here, same time, same place next week. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selinaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selinaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.